really smash this game. We'll see what the draft has in store, though, as Gangplank, probably a smart one, will be the first ban from KLG. Skarner on the other side from Gambit, and there's Morgana, actually.
A lot of respect going across towards Gambit after the last time these two teams played. Gangplank and Galio were big picks for Gambit, really helped them win out towards the bottom side of the map that KLG love to go towards. With those being taken off the board and Chaos Latin Gamers having themselves the first pick, you're looking at things like the potential Rakan or Caitlyn priority, given that the Rakan has just been banned away from KLG.
Yeah, kind of some of the strong ADs losing some of their better support. Kai'Sa, though, the last ban there from Gambit. So interesting to see a blue side Rakan ban, but kind of makes you think that KLG have something pretty specific in mind, not wanting to take that first pick here for themselves. So we'll see what turns up here in pick one of the draft.
You would expect it to be the Caitlyn AD carry. Right now, she does generate a lot of pressure, but instead, they're going to shift their focus over towards the Swain. Now, this is something that Plugo, at least in day one, didn't really bring out for himself. You do have the option to put it up towards the top lane where Nate did play it, and to be fair to him, in those team fights, he was able to offer a lot of value on that Swain champion. So perhaps a bit of a comfort pick for KLG in the top side.
Maybe, I mean, Swain passive, very good in any sort of scrappy team fight situation. Ezreal, though, will be the pick for Lodic, and I know Diamond was talking a little bit about Braum the last time we spoke to him, so maybe just going for a more aggressive support here for Edward, who has been a pretty stellar playmaker from that lane all tournament long.
Interesting that they've decided to put so much priority on the Ezreal. It feels like that they want to get Lodic on something safe. Again, remember, KLG, they love to play through the bottom side of the map. They love to send Tearwolf down there, and they want to try and get Fix and slow rolling. So Gambit have just said, you know what, we're going to go for a hyper-defensive bot lane. Ezreal and Braum. Instead, we're going to look to play through the top side of the map, and you would imagine something like a Trundle to come out for Gambit towards the next half of the...
We'll see if it gets stolen here, though. Tearwolf has not really been on the Trundle side of the jungle a lot so far this tournament, but the Caitlyn pick was, I think, expected. Maybe KLG, knowing they could likely get it in the next rotation, instead pick it here as their second. And I think you kind of mentioned already, jungler pretty likely maybe a support with a couple of bans already through, but actually Trundle will get picked up, and that looks like insta-lock Anivia from Kira.
Wow. Now, this has been pretty heavily banned away from Kira's hands because it is a big comfort pick for him. He pulled it out in the finals of the LCL, and he had a stellar performance on it. It has been a big comfort pick for him for a very long time, and it would not be surprising if he locks it in for himself. But instead, he's just going to show it off. He's going to remind them, hey guys, you've left this open. We're warning you that if you give it to us, you might regret it later.
Pesky time is tricking me, and it looks like falling all the way down to Kha'Zix as the lock-in here. Thought about maybe on in the top side, but actually giving Diamond a pretty aggressive jungle here against what we presume is a Trundle, maybe shying away from the tanks, given that Trundle is on the board.
Exactly that. It also gives you a bit of extra early dueling power with the Kha'Zix. Currently has a 0% win rate in the play-in stage. We'll see if Diamond can be the first to change that. But Chaos Latin Gamers, remember that if they do lose this game, they are out of contention for securing that first place spot. So going to be very important for them as they progress into the second phase of bans.
Well, Cassio and Ornn are actually the bans on either side. A mid lane ban for Gambit and a top lane ban there for KLG.
So right now, KLG are just banning away top laners because you're expecting the Swains going towards the top side. They want to try and give Nate the best matchup possible. But if you're looking at Gambit now, things like Dinar raise in priority. So I feel like a good ban here could be that champion. Alternatively, it looks like they're just going to show the respect once again and take away the Galio, that extra global that Gambit showed good proficiency on the first time these two teams met.
Also respecting the flexibility with the Camille ban, not wanting Nate to potentially swap it up and give Swain over to Plugo. So we'll see if Gambit take mid or top here. I think where you give counterpick is actually pretty important given what's transpired so far in this draft. You know KLG are probably setting up for Fix to have a very good game on Caitlyn, and they'll keep it safe. A kind of an old school tank at this point, pops up every now and then, never seems to go away in any metagame. It is Maokai.
Now, Stasios, he has moved away from the carries. He played Fiora at the beginning of the day, and now he's just going back to something that he played a lot during the regular season, just that engaged front line that really facilitates a lot of utility and just tankiness coming into the mid-game portions. And KLG, we talked about the potential flex of the Swain. Plugo yet to play the Swain so far in this tournament, but I'm sure he's more than happy to. And the Cho'Gath would be a very fine and healthy pick into the tree.
Yeah, I had a chance to talk to some of the Latin American broadcasters, and apparently Nate just loves Cho'Gath. I can't explain why. They couldn't explain why. But he always asks, Coach, can I play Cho'Gath, Cho'Gath, Cho'Gath? Not what I expect from a top laner, but apparently he loves it, and Cho'Gath Alistar will be the picks.
Rounding out Alistar does offer KLG an element of engage. You then have the follow-up from the Cho'Gath, and Gambit returning to comfort. You have the Kha'Zix. He can enable the top side of the map. He has potential ganks in both the Maokai lane and the Anivia lane. Bot lane likely going to fend for themselves, just trying to mitigate a lot of the pressure that the Caitlyn's looking to exert in the early game. And we'll see how things play out. For Gambit, though, this feels very much like a regular season comp. Very slow early game, will spike pretty heavily around the mid to late, especially when you're likely going to be running a double tier composition from the Anivia and Ezreal. But for KLG, they have pressure in the early game. They have pushing lane bot, they have pushing lane top, and arguably, you even have a bit of a push in mid with the Swain up against Anivia, especially pre-6. So KLG, the early game is where they're going to want to try and be proactive, and that is really where they shine.
Yeah, it makes sense, certainly, with their style. I think both teams sort of representing that, hey, Gambit, no, we need to play a slow, controlled game, get our win, and then put ourselves in the best position to claim that first spot solely. For KLG, they know this is their tournament, so might as well play something that feels comfortable, feels very well aligned with their style, and either go out with a bang or get a win and upset this group even more.
We shall see how things play out. Pressure is on for KLG. They were not able to win the rematch against Rainbow 7 earlier in the day, and they need this win if they still want to have a chance at that top spot. Kira, I'm excited to see him play Anivia. You and I were just talking about Anivia. We're both pretty hyped about the champion. We both love it.
Big fan of Anivia. Such a fun, skill-intensive champion that I think when you see players with mastery on it really do a lot of things. Kira has gotten a lot of respect already for his proficiency on the champion, so we'll see what he can get done here. Plugo has also been, I think, a very good-looking mid laner all tournament long, so the matchup in mid certainly a lot to look forward to, but I think for both teams, we should see some pretty top-quality league for them, given that both these comps feel like they fit them.
And I want to use this opportunity just to remind people about what happened the last time that these two teams met, because Gambit, they came in with a game plan. They drafted the Galio, they drafted the Gangplank, and it was very much around stop KLG from snowballing bots. And they were able to do it. You can see they had a major lead for 91% of the game. They had a massive gold difference at the 15-minute mark with about 2.5k gold, and they were able to get a lot of kills. So Gambit, the first time round, one of the big praises that we had for them was that they just seemed very well prepared.
Certainly did, and I think have shown, again, a lot of different strategies. So we'll see what this more standard step back, if you will, does do for them here. Edward and Lodic maybe getting a little fancy here around the tri-bush, but I think for the most part, the level of play has expectedly risen for all the teams at this tournament as they adapt, they prepare, and they learn more. Again, in Best of Ones, you have very little room for error, so making sure you execute when it matters certainly matters.
Exactly that. And when it comes to error in the early game, Nate is someone that I always look at, because I've been pretty critical of him. I feel that he was the big weak point of KLG in their finals, and I feel like in the laning phase is an area where he often struggles. And earlier in the day, we saw a 2 versus 1 against Giral where they ended up losing, and we've seen a couple times where Nate hasn't really been able to step up, but you have to credit him when it gets to the mid to late game. His team fighting seems to be a lot more impactful. His positioning and ability to contribute to the fight seems to be where he really shines. So if Gambit want to try and shut him down, I feel like the early game, the laning phase, is the best opportunity to do that. When you have a Kha'Zix and a Maokai, you have a lot of gank setup towards the top side of the map. So if Diamond is looking to gank anywhere in the early portions, I feel like this could be the play.
He actually part that way as well and got a leash from his bot lane, which is why Fict and Slow are currently pushing up that lane there. So we'll see if the early Caitlyn pressure coupled with the Targon's Alistar can really help, or if Lodic and Edward can hold on. Again, they drafted this very early defensive bot lane, probably knowing that a Caitlyn was coming on for Fix.
I feel like they expected it, and they didn't want to draft this time around to just protecting their bottom lane. Without the Gangplank available to them, they didn't feel as comfortable as they did the first time round. This was a pretty good freeze from both Lodic and Edward. It will keep the minion wave just underneath the tower without it pushing back, which means that KLG have to show that respect, otherwise they could be overextending, allowing Diamond procs for a potential game.
T-Wolf, though, kind of as expected, does get spotted by Kira's ward there on the Raptors, so potentially passing towards bottom. Diamond, they're already looking, in fact, sees the speed train in the river and knows that that's not a safe route to potentially go topside. Stun, though, he's going to land from Kira. Good chunk of damage out there from the E.
Kira using a lot of his mana in the early game to apply a bit of pressure. He is winning out very effectively in a lot of these trades. And note that he is running the spell book as well. often see a lot of debate between Anivia players around whether you run the Spellbook or you just go for Comet and you take something defensive like the heal. Kira values having Ignite early on in the lane, and then perhaps shifting it over to a Teleport for the laning phase, because you often want to just get back to base so you can get your early tier and start stacking it up. And then later on to the game, things like Ghost and Heal but just become way more valuable. So having that diversity is definitely what some Anivia players love to have.
Certainly like seeing that, but as you said, a little less combat effectiveness as Slow does move up and get good vision as a ward spot onto the Gromp camp. Again, just hiding in Fog of War, but Lodik and Edward playing very respectfully as Diamond is going to revisit this left side of the map with a ward. Has cleared the top already, so looks like it's time to go home. T-Wolf's done the same, already got his jungle item finished.
So it's not too surprising for Gambit that they are looking to play this very slow, passive early game. They have drafted very much towards that way. We talked a little bit about it in draft. You have the double tier composition from both Ezreal and Kira, at least that's what we're expecting. And on the side of KLG, they have a lot of pushing lanes. You have push down in the bot. Right now, the Maokai is pushing top side, but Cho'Gath, with the amount of sustain that he has, and once he completes his first item, he will have a little bit more pressure over the Maokai, but it's very much just back and forth. And Plugo, typically he should have a little bit more priority, but Kira's been playing so aggressively in this lane, he's been forced back a little bit. But in the bot side, KLG have so much pressure that that should be the lane that they look to try and play through. And so far, just a bit of vision has been invested on that side to prevent Diamond Procs from ganking. But you can see T-Wolf already hanging around, prepared for any potential early push.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering what the junglers are going to do. Looks like mids have backed though. TP already backed for Plugo. Kira walking actually after getting his tier, so might lose some CS, but deciding that he doesn't want to switch to TP just yet and does want a bit more threat. Again, I'm expecting Kha'Zix to get aggressive at some point, and T-Wolf I think is somewhat relegated to counter gank status, although right now doing a nice job with that control ward, starting to solo this dragon, and then Plugo and Slow, thanks to that bottom lane priority, can rotate over and take this down.
And it's good awareness there. KLG's bot did a very early base. You can see the Zerka's Greaves have been completed for the Caitlyn already. That meant that Lodik and Edward got the slightly later base, allowing KLG to gain control over the bot side river. And T-Wolf on the Trundle, and with a bit of support, is able to take out a very early Drake. So early objective focus towards the side of the map that KLG have control of is definitely a good way to start.
I think so, as slowness still reflected in the item builds here between Kira and Lodik. You mentioned double tier. Definitely those need time to charge up, but Lodik actually going for a cull as well. So kind of just saying, all right, you know what? Just farm it out. Everyone's going to be A-okay. Please, please don't push me on my tower.
Curious as to whether or not he goes for the double tier build that we've now started seeing originated over in the LCK. But we already saw it earlier today, I believe, from Lloyd,
yes,
where you have the, you actually go for both upgrades. So you have both the Archangel staff as well as the Mana Mune, I believe it's called, and you just stack so much mana that you actually get a lot of value from building both of them.
Yeah,
so
it kind of feels like an Ezreal only thing, at least for now.
For sure.
Because he has so many different ratios as Diamond. With a nice invade, actually takes the big wolf and one of the small ones, going to relegate T-Wolf to just clearing that and this ward out. Good awareness though from T-Wolf to suspect a ward there and just use the sweeper quickly to move that one out of the way. Diamond, though, his first little bit of jungle pressure felt there on the left side. Otherwise, he's been pretty passive so far as the Kha'Zix, maybe just waiting for that first evolution at level 6.
Remember that he doesn't have to make anything happen given the comp scales so beautifully. For Gambit, very much teamfight orientated. They have a really good mid to late game. Anivia makes things really difficult for enemy teams to fight in the late game, especially in places like the river because of the amount of zone control that you provide. And something that we've been seeing a lot more on Anivia's is actually the wall max second rather than maxing Q second, which I find really interesting because it just gives you just that, right? Control.
Yep.
The size of the wall, once you've maxed it out, is just so big that you can cut teams off, you can force them into awkward situations, you can rush down Baron, like, there are so many different options and tools. I mean, you consider the record that Kira has, 6-0 on his Anivia with an 11 KDA from the regular season. You have to feel like he's pretty confident on the champion.
You know what? Might be too much faith, but whatever he does, I'm probably going to guess it's correct, at least for this game, as blue buff does get handed over to Plugo. Looks like Kira hunting for the same thing, but his jungler is in base, buying up those 2 long swords real quick. Tower damage has been not too bad for Gambit's bot lane turret, so that's probably the biggest thing here. You're likely going to get pressured in. You're probably going to lose a couple CS, but as long as your turret stays somewhat healthy, you're doing A-okay in this matchup.
And that's really good for Lodik as well. You got to consider the position that he's been put in. A very young player joining the Gambit roster that really does have quite a storied organization, especially here in Europe. And coming into the tournament, expectations were kind of mixed around Gambit's performance. performance, especially individuals like Diamond, Prox, and Edward. Are they washed up now? Can they still play at the high level? And to start the day off through a 3-0 off the back of this young player, mainly playing through him, seeing his carry potential, especially on the Kaisar, has really demonstrated the faith that they had on him, and he's been able to live up to those expectations.
All right, well, this is sneaky. Fix going to step forward. Slow got spotted, so I think that's going to call that off. T-Wolf, though, instead just extends this into a jungle invade. Plugo also here. The blue buff over to Diamond, I believe, who did have to smite it away. But now going to actually fight. Diamond going to be forced to move out. Lots of good pressure there from the mid-jungle duo.
I think this was really smart from KLG because denying blue buff from an Anivia is always a really good thing if you're not the Anivia, because she burns through so much mana using her Glacial Storm to wave clear that, you know, Kira, he actually had no mana after the laning phase. He was expecting to pick up his blue buff. Now he's TPing back in. They're looking for a collapse.
Really well timed invade, but the TP from Kira after the swap could be it. T-Wolf does not get slow, but the spike, but Slow trying to interference on Egg with a knock-on. It's going to land, but now the stun in onto Slow, who has already burnt the ulti wall. Not quite enough. You can see how small it was. Not able to move T-Wolf back into the team for first blood. And now Plugo actually maybe going to spot one out. Pops the ulti. Kira probably going to get egged here, but maybe a bit more. Going to jump around. T-Wolf low. Going to try and get the damage in first blood. Over there, Kira does that. He flashes out. The Nova's burn from Plugo, but Slow with a beautiful pole run might save his team. He gets the kill. Takes down Diamond, but Lodic is going to try and take the next few. Autos on Plugo. Needs one more. Does claim of a fix. Chasing for Edward. Flashes for the last auto and is able to grab it. Kira, though, has resurrected out of the egg and is looking for yet another kill. Slow, no mana, no ult, running rapidly out of health. The wall not bad, the flash is there. He'll get out safely, and Gambit kind of barely come out ahead in the trade.
Ends up being a 2-for-2 in the end. Very close back and forth between both Gambit and KLG. It all starts off with Gambit trying to punish T-Wolf for coming back into the jungle. Kira has the teleport. You can see that Plugo's still in mid lane. And with the numbers in the bot lane, they feel like they can force a numbers advantage. But then the collapse comes in from Plugo. Kira is not expecting him to be waiting in the brush. And then KLG think they can be the ones to go for the collapse. Constant early aggression. This is what we talked about for KLG, but they overstep their bounds. A lot of summoner spells get used, a lot of chasing back and forth. Slow ends up being pivotal in this matchup as he's just zoning away the Anivia, providing a wall to make things difficult for the rest of the team to follow up.
And then Fix flash for the last one, and Slow has to burn his flash, but does eventually get away and protects his AD carry. So all's well that ends well here for Slow, but that was a lot of summoners burnt for 4 quick kills here as the gold's still even, but can't imagine the action's not going to continue after that.
Yeah, I mean, every single summoner spell was burned for KLG, except for Nate's flash, who obviously wasn't even in the fight. And for Gambit, you can say the same. Ignite and flash used for Kira, flash used for Diamond. Bit of harassment thrown down onto Kira, but Lodic still has his flash, though. That's the bright side.
Yeah, he actually played really well to hold onto it there as Gambit continue their 100% first blood percentage. I think that also means Diamond was involved, so I think he's keeping his record as well. Good sneak here into the brush. I think maybe he got spotted depending on the vision radius.
Yeah, I think so, because I think he was spotted on that ward just over the wall. He didn't have the invisibility walking into that brush. T-Wolf is aware that Diamond Prox is clearing out this ward. For the time being, he's just going to back off.
Nice defensive play there from T-Wolf again. Much more of a counter Gecko here on the Trundle. Building in towards his Cinderhawk. Warrior is finished for Diamond Prox now, so maybe he'll get a bit more active, and as we can see, he's evolved his R already for extra stealthiness through those brushes. So a lot of creative parts you can do to move out and try and get ganks, but again, I think maybe the slowness will continue. As I say that, Diamond snuck in. Looking for Fix, Slow, maybe the target does have his ult though. Oh, Q lands, it's wonderful. They can't quite get through the ulti yet, that's gonna miss. Lodic took a gamble there.
But they get a lot of pressure down onto Fix, force him out of lane, and putting the Caitlyn behind is exactly what you want when this was the big, strong lane for KLG. They had constant early push, but you've got to remember that it was KLG that were banning out a lot of the Braum kind of answers during the pick and ban. Rakan was taken off the board, Morgana was taken off the board, and then by Gambit going for a very early Braum, they said, okay, we're going to force you onto something like an Alistar where you can't generate as much pressure as you would like. And we're taking a lot of damage.
Really nice trap there from Fix following the pulverized combo. Diamond does complete the Mountain Drake thanks to the bot lane pressure they generated. Almost costing their lives, but everyone walks away with still some HP left.
Now, We haven't looked at the top lane, but that's because nothing has happened. Just
don't worry about that one for now.
There is a top lane. They are going back and forth. Both have teleport up and available, which means that if we were to see some action, both of them could get involved should they want to.
All right, that's enough of that.
That is enough of that. Let's get back to the actual action.
Rift Herald actually being started on the other side. For T-Wolf trying to trade objectives cross map as Plugo needs to have enough pressure. Kira is going to spot it, popping that Scry as Bloom for a bit of vision through the river. Rift Herald gets leashed pretty far away, but not enough to take it down as KLG will give up that attempt.
Note as well the big CS differential that's built up in the middle lane. That's come as a result of a few things. Number one, Kira has had to base more times than he would have liked. The first one, he had to do an early base so he could secure himself the early tier. The second one was because he went for blue buff and he didn't secure it, which meant that he had no mana, he had to base again. And then the third one was after the fight. So he hasn't really spent a huge amount of time in lane. There's been a lot more action. And because he's still holding on to the Ignite, not having the teleport versus the teleport of Plugo means that he's just been able to sit around in this middle lane. He has a slight experience advantage, a full level up, in fact, over Kira, and this will be pretty valuable moving into the later fights.
Yeah, swaps back to Ignite this time as he secures himself blue buff on his own this time around. Take too much extra time for him to do it. Stun's going to miss though. Plugo with a nice juke right, trying to get the lightning back for the trade. You can see, despite all that mana, still going to take a while for Kira to charge things up, but Roa is finished, Kira is charging, so things are kind of going exactly how Nivea wants them to here. Oh, Edward, nice steal. That's that juicy
there.
gold.
Edward, he's back! King of supports.
Certainly been having a good tournament so far. 74 gold on the Scuttle Crab is nice. As T-Wolf maybe too far forward here. Diamond Prox waiting behind for the invade. Again, trying to sneak through, but this vision from KLG has been really good. Diamond's still going to sneak through, but how far can he get? Makes it with his brush. Finds
really
control ward and takes it down.
The true predator right there is forced to jump away because T-Wolf is hanging around. Just looking at the state of the map, remember, Gambit's comp very geared towards scaling. They didn't really need anything to happen in the early game. They've now started completing a couple of major items. There's even a skirmishing in the bot.
Yeah, again, another good trap on the egg with forced to flash away. Guardian Prox uses the ulti to just disengage T-Wolf, who I think had a pillar ready. Nate now looking for Stayhouse. Could be something here with the Feast. Looking again for the tower dive with a lock up there. Maybe move back from Stayhouse. Quick at the 1v1. It's going to be close to Rupture. Misses Nate. He's going to take one more turret hit, I think, but Stayhouse thinks it's enough. It's not quite. Pops a stopwatch. And Stayhouse out of mana. Like, what do you do? Going to maybe walk back in, but Nate's going to run away. Sapling, toss it into the brush, mate. Oh no, Stayhouse. He can do it. There we go. Gets the 1v1.
Maokai solo kills Cho'Gath. The ultimate battle of tanks is won by PvP Stejos. Wow. You were against the top lane, Pastry, and look at that. The most hype matchup.
I take it all back. It's great. As Stejos picks up the kill under the turret. Both tanks, I think, maybe overstepping some of their bounds here and there.
I saw the stopwatch in the inventory, yet I still wasn't expecting it. Oh, man, that was pretty great. We'll get an in-depth replay, I'm sure, in a second. But
save that for analyst owner.
Yeah. But
sure,
Nate,
they'll have it unlocked.
that was all Nate. Now we should have another fight.
Yep, Edward again, a little too far forward. Flashless, I believe, after that. The TP's coming in, though. And now again, Edward being pulled back forward, caught out with no teammates around. Slow with the pulverizers fixed, able to land the kill. And now Vision of Empire is going to attack Logic for a slow, but Diamond is what they really want. T-Wolf flash Q's forward for the slow. Rupture going to miss as Diamond flash a bit slow. Still in that flash. Headbutt Pulver and T-Wolf claims the kill.
KLG find themselves two quick picks as Gambit trying to gain control of the river when they don't have priority elsewhere. Fortunately for them, Kira was left uncontrolled in the middle lane. He was able to take down that first tower, and the gold still sits in the favor of Gambit.
Yeah, about 1,000 up now after that, so clearly very valuable objective to take. As Logic still defending solo, but should be okay for now. Gambit, again, kind of grinding out a lead. It's kind of what we expected from this comp. They got a Drake to even it up, as we'll watch this again. This time Edward maybe warding too far forward.
Yeah, so the thing is, look at the bottom lane. You can see Ezreal stuck underneath this tower. Maokai is still in the lane after pushing things out, and Nate had his teleport available. So he uses that to TP into the river, create a numbers advantage, and Diamond and Edward are left alone to fend for themselves. You got to remember as well that Edward, he used his flash earlier on, trying to escape the awkward situation that he was put in down towards the bottom lane. So overall, a very good collapse from KLG and a good punishment to get themselves a bit more control of the map.
And again, we talk about this comp fitting their style. A lot of attention on the bot half of the map here for T-Wolf, despite not having as an aggressive jungler as, say, something like an Olaf. So the pressure has clearly been there. Fix is actually looking pretty good right now with the RFC finished. And 2 parts of the Infinity Edge, the big ones, Pickaxe and BF Sword already completed. Lodic looks like a Trinity Force build this time around, so probably not going to see the second tier given how late it is. Again, both teams are pretty happy with their scaling, but KLG, I think, are fine with what they've given to the game so far and where they put their focus, because they do trust Fix to carry this through mid and late.
I mean, the thing is for KLG, though, is that you kind of look at the relative scaling and you could argue, like, sure, like both comps actually scale pretty well. Caitlyn, especially in the late game, because she's going to be building crit, she's naturally going to get through tanks much easier. Diamond, though, looking for a play.
Both sneaky again, trying to assassinate the bot lane. Fix going to take the early isolated damage. Oh, from Brom, going to miss the vision, not enough, but Lodic does manage to find this assassination. KLG have TP down. T-Wolf is here. Diamond, he's going to be the first one to get spotted, but the stun line's backing onto slow as he's going to get aggressed on by Stayhard. Now Diamond gets away. He'll burn by Lodic to save him as Plugo's channeling the ult and trying to find a pick, but Kira, he's rotating down. Plugo can't find anyone in range of the lightning or the claw to pull them back. And that's going to disengage the fight. Gambit with a great gank in bot lane.
And this time it was Gambit who had the teleport advantage. They used the fact that Stasios could join in the engagement towards the bottom side of the map in order to make this play work out for Gambit. They find themselves 2 quick kills. They secure the 3rd Drake of the game. And now it is Gambit that have reclaimed control of the gold lead.
2 mountains versus 1. I think this is kind of what you were getting at, Vedius, as we'll watch this again.
So, we can have a look. Diamond utilizing the invisibility passive that he has from his ult to jump onto Fix. There's no teleport, there's no jungler nearby. Swain does try to join the fray, but just a little bit too late. And against Anivia, it's much harder to get out of that situation. So, Gambit have already secured themselves a kill. Slow feels like that he can go for a re-engage because the rest of his team is here. What he doesn't recognize is that Stasios is behind him. Gambit, Edward is in front of him, and they're able to get themselves a collapse to secure trees.
Here again, spotting him out on the Rift Tower, but this time they may commit to finish a good stun onto Slow, who doesn't have his ulti or his flash, but still not enough damage from Kira to get them off the Herald itself. T-Wolf will pick it up as Diamond maybe swiping through the river for one. Again, sneaking through the brush, hoping someone takes the greedy exit on the left near Blue, but not the case this time. Maybe Plugo now the new target.
I feel like they're going to catch
Oh,
Plugo.
careful, Plugo, no! Great flash!
Ooh.
Gets out from under the stun, still the wall is there as the ult burnt. Oh, good route in Viz onto the Kha'Zix, I think, to prevent that damage from following up. Plugo still burns a bit, but he does get away.
Plugo, that was really good. Even gets the control ward in, and it's not cleared away, Pastry. The side steps, the flash, everything.
It was all worth it.
Everything.
Diamond still wants to kill, though. Hunting again in that same brush. We'll find that control ward, unfortunately, and clear it out, but still a good effort from Plugo to get away. Gambit, though, again applying that pressure, and that's kind of what I was trying to get at before. Never mind, Slow getting aggressive as Theos. We'll just shake that off and let Lodic finish off the turret.
So, you know, the thing for KLG is, I feel like we have to come back to the draft a little bit. Because we see T-Wolf, he's picked himself up the Trundle, and we can understand it was kind of a denial away from Gambit when so many of the other junglers were banned away. But what it resulted in is T-Wolf was not on an aggressive jungle. He finds the most success when he's like diving onto the enemy backline. In his final, when he was able to get his bottom lane a lead, then this team just looked unstoppable. And that is how KLG were able to... That's why they were so inconsistent during their regular season, because they did finish second at the end of their split, and they really did step up in the playoffs. But it was off the back of how well T-Wolf set up his team for an early game lead.
Oh, T-Wolf again trapped by a good wall, forced to flash, and again, all the work he's been doing has been towards that bottom lane, so he has been getting Fix a lead. He's actually doing decent right now with 2 items, sitting with a very small, but, you know, we'll take it CS lead at this point. But the rest of the things that Gambit are doing across the map, given the draft that they've had and the style they're choosing to play, I think is what you're getting at, is that's probably enough to topple what KLG has shown right now, and this is a very quick Baron rush.
Gambit, they have this tendency of always going for these 20-minute Barons. Let's see how it works out.
Gonna be good unless Slow can get the miracle steal. No, rooted in place. Dive in, smites down the Baron, and now Smite is gonna have to get himself out by Gambit, try and disengage the wall, not quite enough, but instead the re-engage in onto Plugo. Could be trouble here as Lodic and Diamond, trapped in the right side of the pit, are gonna have to leap and hop out of the way. Shirley running interference in bot side for some reason as the fight still continues. Edward flashes this time to get up from under the Swain pool. The Vision of Empire will slow onto Kira, but Gambit steal the Baron and sneak away.
Beautiful play there from Gambit. During the regular season, they would so often just try to force these very early Baron plays. When you have the Anivia and Ezreal, yes, you have a lot of mid-game damage, and fortunately for them, The tiers are fully stacked. They hit those 2-item spikes. They gain full control of the river and even top side of KLG's map. And without hesitation, they go for it. KLG get completely caught off guard. And now Gambit have a 4,000 gold lead.
Yeah, again, despite the Rift Tower breaking that bot outer turret, that is dealt with. The wave is going to be reversed back in the right direction. And 2.5 minutes of Baron playtime for Gambit as they look to take this 2-to-1 turret lead to something much greater than that. Already about 4,000 gold ahead. That could break even wider in just the next few minutes.
Now Gambit, they just need to group up. They need to gain control over their side lanes and just start to force fights. They have such a healthy gold lead. They feel so strong as a team right now. And for KLG, yes, it's not like they're weak. The Caitlyn has been doing well in terms of the early game, but you can see, like, Trundle hasn't even completed his first item yet, or his first major item, rather. Caitlyn sitting on both the Infinity Edge and Rapid Fire, but she really steps up when she hits that 3-item mark. And Swain yet to complete the Zonyas. So Gambit, they're going to take a couple, or the final outer tower rather, and I just now want to see them start forcing these plays, start grouping up, using numbers to start generating more leads on the map.
Yeah, and for Fix, again, with the Trundle, expect something like a Ziggs, not here in time, certainly given how little gold Tier Wolf has been able to get despite his presence in the bot side of the map. So a lot to worry about here if you're on KLG. Gambit has kind of finished all those first major item precipice points, and Gambit took the outer tower and sieges this Tier 2 here in bot lane.
Looking at the empowered cannon minion, going to assist Gambit. This is the grouping that we wanted to see. You can even see Plugo sitting up towards the top side of the map, being forced to TP in. Gambit could go for a dive, very risky though against a Cho'Gath and Anaz.
Yeah, Anivia are pretty good in sieges though. Have to be careful of the CC. Nate not going to get stunned there by the Anivia Q, but the turret's taking so much damage. They're just trying to protect these banded up minions for as long as they can. A few more shots, it goes down. Now the fight starts. Stayos in the front, flashes back to the Guardian. A great ult from Evan, going to knock through the whole of the team. The fissure is good, and the fight will be won by Gambit. A couple trades here, back and forth, but Fix almost gets sniped by Lodix Q. Still the ace in the hole, blocked by Edward. Plugo with a good son. He's trying to keep himself alive for a little bit longer. The Nova procs, but it's not quite enough. Kira barely missing that wall, but Lodix will chase him down, and Gambit will sweep that fight.
Gambit looking convincing as they still have 4 members alive. Only 2 of KLG stand in the way. Pastry, I think they're looking to end the game.
Straight to the Nexus is what they're looking for. Fix zoned off by an Anivia wall. The Nexus turret falls. The Baron's still there for 20 seconds as Gambit look to finish the game in record time for them. The Baron will be enough. 2 more kills. The Ace and the Nexus will be given. Kira, he promised me a carry, and carry he has.
Gambit will knock out KLG from the play-in stage. They are no longer in contention of securing that first place spot, but it becomes even more secure for the Gambit squad. Over the last year, this organization has struggled in the international and play-in stage. But this year, things are starting to change. 4-1 in the group stages. 1 game left to play. And if they played like that, Gambit are on track to make it to that best of 5.
And I think that's the thing that Gambit can really take away from here. A big stumble, you have to think, in the first game of the day, given how dominant they were on their first day of play. But this has to feel so much better, and they're going to have the right mindset, the right momentum to win that crucial final game and claim the spot. Again, still quite a bit to determine as you move through this group, but we kind of went from 4 teams to 2. Eliminating KLG and Ascension after the games already. Rainbow 7 is the one contender standing in Gambit's way.
Yes, it certainly is, and that's going to be a very exciting game to watch. I do believe it is, in fact, our next game.
Hey, look at that!
So already they're going to be put under the pressure once more, but we can see the difference, right, from game 1 of the day versus game 3, or game 4 rather, of the day, where Gambit, their win condition just seemed a lot more straightforward. Just group, play around Baron, fight. It just seemed to be all in their wheelhouse.
Yeah, and again, going for comfort, Lodic and Egwood happy to take the very safe defensive lane and kind of play that well. Kira on a signature pick there in the Anivia. Even Stayos playing the comfort on the Maokai and just playing a simpler tank. I mean, I was a little worried about the Kazakhs potentially, but as you said, doesn't need to go super over-aggressive to get things done. Diamond's ganks were very surgical when he went for plays. They tend to work out. And from there, they kind of found a lead and just ground their opponents into dust.
They certainly did. And I was just so impressed with the way in which they set up around Baron. They mitigated the early game that KLG loved to play through, but also just Tearwolf. It felt like that he didn't have the same sort of impact that he would typically have on, say, like the Olaf or even on a Graves. Instead, he went on the Trundle, he couldn't find those early leads, and even though Fix was able to get a couple of early kills, the team was not rolling. And now, unfortunately, they are out of contention.
Certainly are. Gambit Esports, though, have bounced back, and they face Rainbow 7 after the break in a game that could potentially decide who promotes the knockouts. You won't want to miss